Mirror is no longer the person you intended to become. Not broken, not defeated, just unfinished. A version of you shaped more by past habits than future dreams, more by circumstances than choices. It's a moment that arrives quietly for some and forcefully for others. But when it comes, it asks a powerful question. Are you willing to rebuild yourself? Most people wait for the world to change before they decide to change. They wait for a better year, a better opportunity, a better break. But transformation doesn't begin when life becomes easier. It begins when you decide you're no longer willing to live at the level you've settled for. It begins when you realize that who you've been does not dictate who you can become. Tonight, I want to invite you into a conversation not about perfection, not about pretending, but about possibility. About the extraordinary strength that appears when you refuse to stay the same. Because somewhere inside you is a greater version waiting to be built. And the moment you choose to rebuild, everything in your life begins to shift. Personal responsibility is the foundation of rebuilding yourself, because nothing in life truly changes until you decide that you are the one who must change it. Many people wait for circumstances to shift, for luck to show up, or for someone else to rescue them from their own dissatisfaction. But the truth is that every meaningful transformation begins the moment you stop pointing outward and start looking inward. When you recognize that your results, your habits, your mindset, and your direction are influenced more by your choices than by your surroundings, you reclaim a kind of power that many people go through life never discovering. Taking personal responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything that has ever happened. It means acknowledging that you control how you respond, how you grow, and how you move forward from this moment on. That shift from victim to architect is what separates those who merely survive from those who rebuild something extraordinary. Most people underestimate how subtly responsibility slips away from them. It doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it shows up in small excuses. I'm tired. I don't feel motivated. I don't have time. Someone else has it easier than I do. Each excuse chips away at your sense of control and places your future in the hands of forces you cannot manage. But when you decide that your future depends on your discipline, your decisions, and your daily effort, you begin to shape your life deliberately rather than accidentally. Responsibility acts like a door. On one side is the comfort of excuses, and on the other side is the discomfort of growth. Many choose the first because it demands nothing, but it also gives nothing. The second asks for effort, honesty, and discipline, but it gives you identity, strength, and direction. Taking responsibility requires you to confront the truth about where you currently stand. It means acknowledging that some of your habits have held you back, that some of your relationships have limited your vision, and that some of your choices have kept you smaller than you were meant to be. This honesty can be uncomfortable, but it is the first hammer strike in the rebuilding process. Without it, you can decorate the old structure, rearrange the furniture, or paint the walls, but the foundation remains weak. True rebuilding starts from the ground up, and the ground is you, your decisions, your character, your discipline. Responsibility also means understanding that change is not a moment, but a series of consistent actions. Many people want transformation without the discomfort of discipline. They want the results but resist the routines. When you take personal responsibility, you stop waiting for feeling to lead you and instead let commitment guide you. You wake up early even when the bed feels warm. You read and study even when your mind wants entertainment. You practice a new skill even when you feel clumsy. You make the call, take the step, start the plan, follow through, and keep going even when no one is watching. Responsibility means you refuse to hand your future over to chance. Another important part of taking responsibility is recognizing the immense freedom that comes with it. At first, it may feel heavy because you realize how much of your life is shaped by your own decisions. But eventually, it becomes liberating. When you accept that your effort influences your income, your habits shape your health, and your mindset directs your opportunities, you also realize that you can rebuild any part of your life with enough patience and consistency. You can learn what you don't know. You can develop what you don't have. You can improve who you are. Responsibility turns life into something you build, not something you endure. Finally, personal responsibility is the foundation because it sets the tone for every other part of self-rebuilding. Without it, discipline feels forced, environment changes feel temporary, skill development feels optional, and vision feels like wishful thinking. With responsibility, everything else falls into alignment. You become the one steering the ship rather than drifting with the current. You stop waiting for permission and begin creating momentum. You stop being shaped by life and start shaping life yourself. Small disciplines shape big futures because the trajectory of a life is rarely determined by one dramatic action, but by the quiet, repeated behaviors that accumulate over time. People often imagine success as a sudden breakthrough, a lucky moment, or a flash of brilliance, yet in reality it is the product of small habits practiced with consistency. A person doesn't become wise by reading one book, nor does someone become strong by going to the gym once. It is the repetition, the willingness to return to the task day after day, that gradually transforms ability into excellence and potential into results. When you understand this, you stop chasing shortcuts and start investing in daily actions that compound into meaningful change. The challenge with small disciplines is that they often appear insignificant in the moment. Reading 10 pages seems too minor to matter, just as saving a few dollars seems too trivial to change your financial future. Writing a paragraph, practicing a skill for 15 minutes, taking a short walk, learning one new idea each day, none of these feel life-changing on their own. But the power of small disciplines lies not in their individual impact, but in their cumulative force. Over weeks, those 10 pages become books. Over months, those short practices become expertise. Over years, those modest habits build a life that is radically different from the one you started with. Small acts compound, and the compounding effect is often invisible until the results become undeniable. Small disciplines also shape big futures because they build identity. Every time you follow through on a small discipline, you send a message to yourself about who you are. When you show up consistently, even in small ways, you begin to see yourself as someone capable of commitment, growth, and focus. This internal identity shift is what sustains long-term success. When people quit their goals, it is rarely because the goal was impossible. It is usually because they didn't build a daily habit that reinforced their sense of progress. The discipline itself becomes part of your character, and once it becomes part of your character, it becomes much harder to abandon. Another reason small disciplines matter is that they are manageable. You don't need massive energy, huge confidence, or perfect conditions to take a small step. You don't need to feel motivated or inspired every day. You simply need to commit to doing something small that moves you forward. Big goals often intimidate people to the point of paralysis. The mountain seems too tall, so they don't take the first step. But small disciplines break the mountain into steps, each one achievable, each one building momentum. When you focus on the next small action instead of the entire journey, progress becomes steady and sustainable. Small disciplines also protect you from the trap of emotional decision-making. On days when you feel discouraged or tired, small habits give you structure. They ensure you continue moving forward even when your emotions fluctuate. This consistency becomes one of your greatest advantages because most people allow their feelings to determine their actions. When feelings dictate behavior, progress becomes unstable. When discipline drives behavior, progress becomes reliable. Over time, consistent reliability outperforms inconsistent intensity. Another valuable aspect of small disciplines is how they create opportunities you cannot predict. You may start reading 10 pages a day and eventually come across an idea that changes your direction. You may practice a skill for a few minutes daily and eventually become good enough to attract new opportunities. You might save a small amount of money each week and eventually find yourself prepared for an investment that others must pass on. Small disciplines put you in the path of opportunities that would remain invisible to someone waiting for a perfect moment to act. Small disciplines also serve as a filter for your priorities. When you commit to doing small things consistently, you start to notice what truly matters and what drains your time without adding value. You learn which habits elevate your life and which habits erode your progress. This awareness helps you refine your routines, allowing you to double down on the practices that move you forward and release the ones that keep you stagnant. Over time, your days become more intentional, your actions more aligned, and your outcomes more predictable. Finally, small disciplines build resilience. They teach you how to show up even when conditions are not ideal. They train your mind to stay focused, your body to stay active, and your character to stay committed. Because they are small, they are sustainable. Because they are consistent, they are transformative. And because they are repeated, they become the quiet architects of your future. Your environment influences your evolution because human beings absorb more from their surroundings than they often realize. The people you spend time with, the conversations you engage in, the habits you witness, and even the atmosphere you live and work in all shape the expectations you have for yourself. Whether you rise or remain stagnant is deeply connected to the environment that surrounds you daily. Many people underestimate this because change in environment rarely produces instant transformation. Instead, the influence is slow, subtle, and often invisible until you look back and realize how much it has shaped your thinking, your confidence, and your direction. You cannot expect to grow in a place that encourages you to remain the same, and you cannot expect to think bigger while surrounded by small visions. In many ways, your environment is like soil, and you are the seed. Even the strongest seed cannot thrive in poor soil. The people around you have the greatest impact on your environment. Every person carries an energy, a mindset, and a standard. When someone close to you complains often, avoids responsibility, or talks more about limitations than possibilities, their patterns can silently sink into your thinking. Without noticing, you begin to adopt their language, their fears, and their excuses. On the other hand, when you surround yourself with people who challenge themselves, who seek growth, who encourage progress, and who speak with intention and purpose, you begin to rise to that level. Humans naturally mirror what they see. If you're surrounded by individuals who aim low, you will unconsciously lower your standards to match them. But if you're surrounded by those who push themselves to improve, you will feel inspired, even obligated to upgrade your own life. Environment also influences habits. If the people around you prioritize learning, you begin to read more. If they take care of their bodies, you begin to care more about your health. If they set goals, you begin setting your own. Habits grow or die based on the environment that feeds them. This is why many people struggle to rebuild themselves while staying in the same routines, the same social circles, and the same daily patterns that shape their old selves. A new life requires new conditions. The mind adapts to whatever it is repeatedly exposed to, so the right environment doesn't just support your growth, it accelerates it. The wrong environment slows you down or pulls you backward without you even realizing it. Your surroundings also influence your beliefs. You may have dreams, ideas, or ambitions that feel exciting, but when you share them with people who cannot see what you see, they often respond with doubt. Not because your dream is impossible, but because it is beyond the limits of their own imagination. Their doubts, spoken or unspoken, begin to create cracks in your confidence. Over time, your belief in yourself can weaken simply because you've shared your vision with people who cannot support it. On the other hand, when you're around people who believe in growth, who understand risk, who value ambition, they don't crush your dreams, they help shape them. They encourage refinement, not retreat. They help you believe that your goals are within reach if you are willing to do the work. The physical environment matters too. Your workspace affects your focus. Your home affects your energy. The places you visit influence how you think and feel. A cluttered environment creates a cluttered mind. A loud, chaotic space creates mental noise that makes it harder to think clearly or act intentionally. Meanwhile, an organized, peaceful environment supports clarity and intention. Small changes in your surroundings can lead to significant changes in your behavior. Even something as simple as rearranging your space, adding a few items that inspire you, or creating a dedicated area for growth-related activities can improve your mindset. Another powerful aspect of environment is expectation. Every environment carries its own standard. In a high-standard environment, excellence is normal, discipline is expected, and growth is part of the culture. In a low-standard environment, laziness becomes acceptable, excuses become common, and mediocrity becomes the norm. You unconsciously rise or fall to the expectations of the group. This is why people who move to new social circles or professional communities often experience sudden growth. The expectations around them quietly elevate their behavior. They begin to think differently, act differently, and believe differently because the environment demands it. That demand becomes a form of invisible guidance directing them toward improvement. Your environment can either nourish your potential or choke it. You can have ambition, discipline, and desire, but if your surroundings constantly pull you backward, progress becomes a battle. To evolve, you must intentionally choose environments that elevate your standards, expand your thinking, and reinforce your growth. When you place yourself where progress is encouraged, your evolution becomes natural rather than forced. Pain can be a powerful catalyst because it shakes you awake in ways comfort never can. Most people do not change when life is easy. They change when life becomes too uncomfortable to remain the same. Pain breaks routines, challenges assumptions, and forces you to confront parts of yourself you may have avoided. It exposes what is weak, where you lack discipline, what you have ignored, and where you have settled. And although the experience is unpleasant, it carries information that comfort will never deliver. Pain demands attention, and in that attention lies an opportunity for transformation. It becomes a turning point, a moment when you can choose whether the experience will break you down or rebuild you into something stronger. When people face loss, failure, disappointment, or setbacks, they often reach a point where the life they've been living no longer feels sustainable. The old habits stop working, the old mindset becomes insufficient, and the old version of themselves cannot carry them forward. Pain becomes the signal that something must change. Even though the instinct is to escape discomfort, the truth is that discomfort often holds the exact lessons needed for growth. Emotional pain shows you where healing is needed. Mental pain shows you where thinking must evolve. Physical or situational pain shows you where boundaries, discipline, or direction must be strengthened. Pain in its own harsh way becomes a teacher. Growth is often hidden inside moments of struggle because pain forces you to slow down and reflect. When things fall apart, you are pushed to ask deeper questions. Why did this happen? What can I learn from this? What role did I play? What do I need to change so I don't repeat this pattern? These questions might feel heavy, but they open doors that comfort keeps closed. When life is smooth, you can ignore cracks in your foundation. When life becomes painful, those cracks demand to be repaired. Pain exposes the truth, and truth is the starting point of rebuilding. Pain can also sharpen your vision. Experiences that hurt often clarify what truly matters. When relationships end, you realize the kind of connection you genuinely desire. When opportunities slip away, you become clear about what you want to pursue next. When you fail at something meaningful, you gain perspective about the depth of your passion and the areas where you need to grow. Pain strips away the unnecessary and brings your priorities into focus. It helps you identify what deserves more of your time and what no longer belongs in your life. One of the most transformative aspects of pain is its ability to build resilience. Every time you survive something difficult, you expand your capacity to handle life's challenges. You learn that you are stronger than you thought, more adaptable than you assumed, and capable of enduring moments that once felt impossible. This resilience becomes a quiet confidence that supports you in future challenges. You begin to realize that pain does not have to destroy you. It can construct you. It can shape your character, deepen your wisdom, and strengthen your courage. Many people who have gone through difficult seasons find themselves later saying that those painful moments became the most pivotal points in their lives because they forced them to grow in ways they would not have grown otherwise. Pain also reveals your blind spots. Sometimes you repeat certain mistakes because you cannot see the patterns driving them. Pain highlights those patterns with clarity. It shows you the habits that sabotage your progress, the relationships that drain your energy, the beliefs that keep you stuck, and the fears that limit your actions. Without painful experiences bringing these patterns to the surface, you might continue living in cycles without understanding their origins. Pain breaks the cycle by making the cost of the old pattern too great to ignore. Another important aspect of pain is that it increases empathy. Once you have experienced deep disappointment or hardship, you begin to understand others in a new way. You become slower to judge and quicker to extend compassion. This shift doesn't just improve your relationships, it improves your character. It softens you in the right places while strengthening you in others, giving you a balanced internal foundation for rebuilding yourself. Pain can also fuel motivation. When you've had enough of feeling stuck, lost, or unfulfilled, that discomfort becomes the spark that pushes you into action. People often begin major transformations, not because they felt inspired, but because they felt fed up. Pain becomes a driving force that pushes you to change your habits, redefine your standards, and pursue the life you've been postponing. It becomes a reminder of what you no longer want to experience, and that reminder energizes your desire for progress. Investing in your mind and skills is one of the most powerful forms of self-rebuilding because it strengthens the very tools you use to navigate life. Circumstances can change, opportunities can appear or disappear, industries can evolve, and people can come and go, but the knowledge and abilities you cultivate stay with you. They shape how you think, how you solve problems, how you communicate, and how you adapt to challenges. When you invest in your mind, you're not just gathering information, you're expanding your capacity to understand the world. When you invest in your skills, you're increasing your value, your confidence, and your ability to create opportunities instead of waiting for them. Growth becomes something you generate, not something you hope for. Learning is a lifelong process, yet many people treat education as something that ends after school. They don't realize that their mind is the engine of their future, and like any engine, it needs fuel. Books, courses, conversations, mentorship, reflection, and real-life experiences all feed the mind in different ways. Each piece of knowledge becomes a tool you can draw from when life presents new situations. When you avoid learning, you limit your options. When you embrace it, you open pathways you didn't even know existed. A single idea can change your direction. A new skill can change your income. A shift in mindset can change your entire experience of life. Your mind determines how you interpret events. Two people can face the same situation. One sees a problem, the other sees a possibility. The difference lies in perspective, and perspective is built through learning. When you invest time into understanding psychology, communication, business, relationships, health, or any area relevant to your goals, you improve your ability to navigate those areas effectively. A better mind makes better decisions, and better decisions create better outcomes. Investing in your mind is not merely about intelligence, it's about clarity, insight, and emotional maturity. These qualities protect you from repeating old mistakes and help you create a future guided by wisdom instead of impulse. Skill development is equally important because it turns potential into performance. You can have ambition, but without skill, ambition remains a wish. Skills make your goals practical. They give you the ability to take what you imagine and turn it into something real. Whether the skill is communication, leadership, writing, selling, planning, organizing, creating, analyzing, or building, each one increases your capacity to contribute and succeed. Skills compound over time. When you learn one skill, it often makes it easier to learn another, and eventually you develop a set of abilities that make you adaptable in any situation. In a world that constantly changes, adaptability becomes one of the greatest assets you can have. Investing in your mind and skills also boosts your confidence. Confidence doesn't come from wishing, it comes from knowing. When you know you've studied, practiced, and prepared, you walk differently. You speak differently. You show up with a sense of strength that others can feel. Confidence rooted in competence is far more stable than confidence rooted in appearance or circumstance. Competence stays with you. It doesn't disappear when someone disagrees with you or when life becomes unstable. It is anchored in the effort you have invested over time. Another powerful part of investing in your growth is that it increases your independence. When you rely on chance, luck, or other people to determine your future, you remain vulnerable. But when you build your knowledge and abilities, you gain control over your direction. You can create value wherever you go. You can adjust to new challenges without collapsing. You can generate opportunities instead of waiting for them. This kind of independence doesn't isolate you. It empowers you. It makes you a contributor, someone who brings ideas, solutions, and abilities into every situation. Learning also expands your sense of possibility. The more you know, the more you see. You begin to understand how the world works, how successful people think, how opportunities develop, and how you can position yourself to take advantage of them. Instead of seeing life through a narrow window, you begin to see it through a wide lens. Possibilities that once seemed unrealistic become practical. Goals that once felt out of reach become attainable. Your imagination expands, and with it, your ambition grows healthier and stronger. Investing in your mind and skills also protects you from stagnation. When you stop learning, you stop growing. When you stop practicing, you stop improving. And when you stop improving, life becomes repetitive and uninspiring. Growth brings freshness. It brings excitement. It brings the sense that you are moving forward rather than standing still. The more you learn, the more motivated you feel to keep evolving. Ultimately, investing in your mind and skills turns you into someone who is prepared, capable, and resilient. It ensures that no matter what changes around you, the most important part of you, the thinker, the creator, the problem solver, continues to grow stronger. Rebuilding yourself requires vision and patience because transformation is not a moment but a progression. A strong vision gives you direction, purpose, and clarity, while patience gives you the endurance to stay committed when results come slowly. Many people start with motivation, but motivation fades. Vision, however, acts like a compass, guiding you even when the path is unfamiliar. Without a clear idea of who you want to become and what kind of life you want to build, you end up moving in circles. Vision gives meaning to the work, the sacrifices, and the discipline. It helps you understand why you must change, not just how. When your vision is strong, you can tolerate temporary discomfort because you know it leads somewhere worthwhile. Vision is not just about setting goals. It is about imagining a higher version of yourself. It requires you to look beyond your current circumstances and see possibilities that may not yet be visible. This imagination is more than dreaming. It is the blueprint for your future. People who rebuild themselves successfully often carry a picture in their mind, a picture of the person they want to be, the life they want to live, the standard they want to uphold. This image becomes a quiet coach, reminding them to rise above old habits, old environments, and old limitations. Vision elevates your expectations. Instead of accepting life as it is, you begin shaping life as it could be. But even the clearest vision requires patience, because growth rarely happens on your preferred timeline. You may know exactly what you want to create, but the process of creating it involves waiting, enduring learning, failing, and trying again. Patience is not passive. It is the strength to stay consistent while the results are still invisible. It is the understanding that progress often moves slowly before it moves quickly. In the beginning, the work seems heavy and the improvement feels small. You wonder if your effort is making any difference. But transformation is like planting a seed. Nothing happens for a while on the surface, yet roots are growing underneath. Then one day, the first signs of growth begin to appear. Patience allows you to keep watering the seed even when you see no immediate change. Patience also protects you from frustration. When you expect instant transformation, every setback feels like failure. You begin doubting yourself, your abilities, and your path. But when you accept that growth takes time, setbacks become part of the process rather than signs to give up. You understand that obstacles are not proof that rebuilding is impossible. They are proof that rebuilding is real. Any structure worth building requires time, correction, and refinement. The same is true when you rebuild yourself. Patience keeps your emotions steady and your actions consistent. Vision and patience work together. Vision sets the destination. Patience sustains the journey. Without vision, patience has no direction. Without patience, vision has no endurance. Vision shows you the future, but patience teaches you how to arrive there. You must be willing to embrace long periods of quiet effort. These periods often lack applause, praise, or visible achievement. Yet these are the seasons where you develop discipline, character, and resilience. They are the seasons where you learn who you are when no one is watching. Over time, these invisible seasons become the foundation for visible success. Another important reason rebuilding requires vision and patience is that change is uncomfortable. Letting go of old habits, breaking old patterns, and forming new routines requires mental and emotional strength. Vision reminds you why this discomfort is necessary. Patience helps you endure it without losing focus. You begin to understand that the discomfort you feel is not a sign of failure, but a sign of growth. You are outgrowing old versions of yourself, and that process always brings temporary tension. Rebuilding yourself also involves uncertainty. You will not always feel confident. You will not always be sure you are doing it right. There will be days when doubt whispers loudly. Vision helps silence that doubt by reminding you of where you are going. Patience helps you continue moving even when the path feels unclear. You learn to trust the process, trust your effort, and trust the growth that is happening beneath the surface. Vision also gives you something meaningful to measure. Instead of comparing yourself to others, you compare yourself to the person you're becoming. You see progress in the small changes in your mindset, your habits, your reactions, and your choices. These small shifts may not seem dramatic day by day, but over months and years, they create an entirely new version of you. Patience allows you to appreciate these changes without rushing them. Ultimately, rebuilding yourself is an act of commitment. Vision gives you a reason to commit. Patience gives you the strength to stay committed. Together, they turn long-term growth from something you hope for into something you live for each day. As we come to the end of this message, remember that rebuilding yourself is not a destination, but a decision, a commitment to rise above who you were and step toward who you are meant to become. You now understand the power of personal responsibility, the impact of daily disciplines, the influence of your environment, the lessons hidden in pain, the importance of investing in your mind and skills, and the strength found in vision guided by patience. When these elements come together, they form a pathway that leads you out of the ordinary and into the life you've always known was possible. Rebuilding doesn't happen overnight, but it does begin in a single moment, this moment, when you choose growth over comfort, purpose over excuses, and progress over stagnation. The future will always favor the person willing to shape it with intention, effort, and courage. So step forward with confidence. Trust the work you are beginning. Honor the vision you hold, and keep walking even when the results are quiet and the road feels long. Your new life is being built one choice at a time, and everything you need to become is already within you. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for choosing to rise. Wishing you strength, clarity, and unwavering determination as you rebuild the best version of yourself. Good luck on your journey ahead.